Hey folks, Steve here with a special World in Flames video. Firstly, I want to apologize. My voice is going to sound a little bit off. I've gotten a little bit sick, a sore throat, which is part of the reason why I haven't done more naval mechanic videos. But I figured because I got it done today, I'd share how I've gone about my storage solution for World in Flames. And I know that's sort of a very commonly asked question for new WiF players is how do you store and organize your game counters, because obviously there's a lot of game counters with the game. I think the classic game has 8 counter sheets, so that's a fair number, but when you add in all the expansion content, Ships in Flames alone has 9 counter sheets, more than the base game. And then you've got Planes in Flames, Divisions in Flames, Territories in Flames. There ends up being thousands of counters, and you have to organize them some way. So today I managed to finish punching all my counters, and was able to do that with the great help of my wonderful wife, who wanted to help out, and we managed to crank through all the counters and getting them all organized. And now I'm all set and good to go with my game. So I figured I'd share kind of how I went about doing the organization in a way that is cost effective yet still orderly and manages to provide flexibility if you're playing just the classic game, or if you need to switch gears and play the deluxe game, a way to sort of balance how you keep everything organized and put together. So I want to start firstly with what storage containers I've decided to go with. And sort of the reason behind what I picked is mostly due to cost, because I don't want to have to deal with 70 containers, each of those costing a decent amount of money, and then I'm breaking the bank buying plastic containers or storage containers or what have you. But I don't want to use baggies just because it's sort of a mess to deal with. So I went with Plano storage containers. Those are pretty common for folks. I got the Plano 23620-01 stowaway with adjustable dividers. And the reason why I went with these is that, at least as of September 1st, 2018, they are priced at $4, $3.99, with potentially free shipping with Prime members per container. And the normal price is $10, but I went with this with a reduced price, however long this is going to last. And I ended up getting 12 of these containers. But the reality is I ended up managing to get my entire WiF counter collection for the deluxe package into 11 of them, so I have a sort of an extra one I can use for something else. So if you're looking to do what I'm going to talk about for storage, and you follow the model that I went with, you're looking at 11 times $44 plus shipping and handling. So around $50 or less to get your storage containers. If you go right now and get what I got, that's a lot better than, say, $15 per container, and then you need a lot more containers. So if you're worried about price point, I think this is about the cheapest you can get away with while still being very useful. Now, Plano's not giving me any money or any compensation, and neither is Amazon or anything. I'm just showing I bought it from Amazon. This is what I got. It ended up working out pretty good for my needs. So again, if you're going to follow the model that I'm going to describe here in this video, this would be a good choice to get. They come with the adjustable dividers come on sprues, so you kind of have to use a pair of scissors to cut them out and separate them. I ended up with a very large surplus of these dividers based on how I chose to create the compartments within the box. So you'll have, if you get a fair number of these, you're going to end up with a lot of extra dividers, which is good. That gives you the flexibility, but cutting them with scissors is kind of a pain in the butt. But again, it worked out pretty well for me, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So give this a look. Obviously, there's a lot of different containers you can get from the Container Store or Michael's Art Store or other online retailers, a lot of different brands. So use whatever makes sense. If you already own a lot of containers, you might have some that you already like. So hey, go with what works. To show how I started to organize mine. So what I ended up doing was I gave each major power, including China, which is very generous of me, their own storage container to hold counters. Then I separated all of the minor counters into 2 boxes, and then I managed to fit all the administrative counters into one box. And you can see this is a picture of my administrative counters. I use the dividers to create square compartments all around, except for the bottom row, which it's hard to create compartments for because the ridges are only set up a certain way. But I managed to get all of the administrative counters in here in a decently organized manner. The U.S. entry markers I had separated by year, so 1939, 40, 41, 42, 43. Convoys used or ships damaged markers, no plane markers I set up here. Factories and damaged factory markers here. The pilots, the chits used for the number of pilots you have. I just put all the major power counters in here because all of these are going to be used on the production spiral chart aid, which, it just makes sense to put all the major power stuff in here rather than with the major power counters, because again, they're all going to be used on that chart. You can get them out and place them on the chart all at once. Same thing with their pilot and training. I also have the night mission and high altitude air mission counters here. Tenths of oil markers, again, since that's on the production spiral chart aid. Facilities that could be built that are power neutral. Saved build points, saved oil, destroyed oil, rails and roads that can be built. I also put all the task force markers from ships in flames in here all in one compartment. Because if I'm not using ships in flames or I'm not using task force markers, I'm not using that option, I can just leave them all in here. If I'm going to use it, I can scoop them all out and put them on the task force chart until they're ready to be used by a stack of units. I have the offensive point markers that you use to put on the production spiral all here mixed together. The colors are easy to pick out. And then the offensive point totals that go on the chart, as well as the weather counters, and you can't really see them, but the impulse, year, turn markers are all in here. Due to the way these storage boxes are designed, there's a little bit of a lip here, so this compartment will usually be a little bit smaller in terms of total area or volume than some of these other compartments, but it worked out for all these particular counters here. So again, all of the administrative counters, base game, and all the expansion content I managed to fit in here just fine. So very easy to go to when it's, again, for the most part, power neutral or stuff that goes on a tracking chart, all easily accessible from this box, and I can get that out and pull them out as needed. For the minor powers, I'm showing just one of them. The other minor storage box I have separated almost entirely into square compartments. This one, because I have some of the powers that have a little bit more counters to them, I let them have rectangular shaped compartments. What I have chosen to do is I've put all of the counters that are the classic game counters, except for the naval units, in these compartments, as well as all of the territory in flames stuff, the division in flames stuff, planes in flames, ships in flames. All of these are in the compartments here with the most of the base game counters, because for me, that's likely going to be how I play the game, is going to be with ships in flames, with all the expansions. That's sort of the default for me. So I'm putting them all in here together, all the expansion content available in the compartments. What I've chosen to do is I've taken the classic game minor power naval units, all of them from every minor power, and I've just put them in this one section here. You can say I labeled it here. They're all just together. And you got to remember, if you look at the campaign playbook, rulebook that comes with WiF, when you're playing with ships in flames, you still include the amphibious transports and convoys and subs from the base game in with the ships in flames naval unit force pool. So those units are still in the compartments. I guess another way to look at it is the surface vessels that are classic naval units are taken out. So if I were going to say, because I'm maybe teaching a new player or a friend, someone who hasn't played before, how to play World in Flames, and I was going to use the classic game and not ships in flames because there's just so much going on with that, all I would need to do is go to these compartments, pull out all the units that I need, leave behind the stuff that I'm not using, like the divisions and flame stuff if we're not playing with divisions, and then again leave behind the naval units that are for the expansions, and then just grab the classic game surface vessels here as I need them for whichever minor power I need to. And so that's kind of where the flexibility comes in. Again, if I'm playing the full bore thing, which is what I'm going to do most of the time, I think, then everything's already set up, and I merely have to leave behind in the storage box the stuff I'm not going to use. I'm not going to keep my storage boxes out on the table as I play and use them as my force pool containers. These storage containers are just going to be used to store the game and keep them organized. I will scoop out of these compartments the stuff that I need when I need it, and organize the force pools on sheets of paper or just on a table by power and, you know, via all the little types of units that I have. And then I just threw all the partisans down here as well and pull them out based on year as needed. I may end up separating these out, but for now I just threw them all together. And again, I have two compartments or two storage boxes for the minor powers. So there's just one of them. The other one is squared off, square compartments for all of them. I think I put all the Central American units all together just because there were so few of them, like one counter per minor nation, so I just threw them all together, but relatively easy and organized. So then I have, again, a storage box for each major power, and I have an example here of Germany. And I have all 9 of them organized the exact same way. I'm sorry, I think it's 8 of them. I need to do my math right. Yeah, 8. All 8 major powers have their own box. France has their own box. China has their own box. And all of them are set up and organized the exact same way to this sort of numbered chart, so that, you know, whenever I'm going to go to a box and get units out, I know where everything is. They're all using the same model of organization here. And so I've separated each box into 12 compartments with the dividers. And again, I've separated out the classic game naval units that would not be used with ships in flames, meaning that all the transports, all the amphibious units, all the subs, all the convoys and stuff are out amongst these other compartments, but the service naval vessels for the classic game, I put all in section 9 here. So again, if I'm playing a base game or a classic game with a friend who I'm teaching the game or just wants a simpler game, I'm going to get all the units out of these other compartments that I need as I need them, but I'll make sure to pick out the classic ships here because there's there's relatively few in number of them, all things considered. The base game, the classic game by itself, really doesn't have that many counters. There's not that many to sort through, so it's just easy to throw them all together here. And then otherwise, I have all of the units that have a year up through 1939 here in compartment 1. Then 1940, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Because the expansions include ships and planes and stuff that are for 1946 and onward, but there's still relatively few of those units, I put everything from 1946 on all in one container. I don't imagine that I'm going to be playing a game that goes into 46, 47, 48. So if I need to pull all the 47 units out of here, there should be few enough. You know, I can grab this pile, sort them out, grab what I need, put the rest back. Again, some flexibility here. There's a little bit of sorting you have to deal with, but it's not too bad. Classic naval units, like I said. In compartment 10, I have all the territorials, city-based volunteers, and any other sort of miscellaneous units like the Guard Banner units for the Soviet Union and the Siberian units for the Soviet Union. But otherwise, all the other weird stuff is sort of in here, stuff that you can only get if you have control of certain territories or areas. Now, the one con to this is that territories in flames and divisions in flames and stuff include units that, you know, there are territorial units for stuff that you start the game with if you're playing a 1939 scenario, but there are also territorial counters in the mix that are for potentially conquerable areas. So, you know, there might be a territory in here for Germany that is for a country in Africa that starts under the Commonwealth control. So when setting up the game, I'm going to have to be careful of grabbing the counters for the force pools for the territories that Germany actually has, not the ones that it could have. And then as the game would progress, and if I take control of those areas, that would allow me to use these different CBV counters or extraterritorial units that I retrieve them from the storage box. So here is where, yeah, there's a little bit of a sorting logistical pain. But again, some of these should be pretty obvious. Some color coding can help on the back of the counters, so it's not going to be too bad. I also have the forts thrown in here as well. You can sort of see one here. So I know if I need to grab the forts, I can just grab them all from here and continue onward, so not too bad. In compartment 11, I have all the reserves, so that's relatively easy just to throw them all in here. And obviously the reserves get used pretty quickly once a major power goes to war, so easy to grab and scoop these as needed. For countries like the Soviet Union or USSR that have units that say GER in the back when they're at war with Germany, I also just threw them in here, so any sort of reserve militia related to that are put into this compartment. And then finally, in compartment 12, I have all of the convoys. So this does not include the special convoy units that have additional defensive combat abilities, because on the back of those counters are availability years, so they're out here in the year appropriate to them. In this compartment are simply the convoys and tankers that have no specialness to them. So if I'm playing a classic game, I can pick the 5s and 10s or whatever out of this mix, and then otherwise if I'm playing with the convoys and flames with the various denominations, then they're all just here, right? Values 1 through 10, they're all available. I can just pluck them out of here because there's no availability date for any of these. They're just, convoys as you need and build them. So they're all going to be here in this special compartment just for convoys. So the logistics of this will mean, when I'm playing a full deluxe game, I'm just going to simply scoop out as per year as needed, and then I will have to organize the big pile of counters in here into the different types for my force pools. So that will take a little bit of time to organize, but unless you've got 70 storage boxes each separated out this very particular way, you're going to need to sort of organize your force pools every year for the new additions anyway. So for me, it's just, I need to grab everything that I need, which should all be in this compartment, and then I can simply quickly go through and place them in the force pools as they need to be. And then the storage box can again go back on the shelf or go underneath the table or whatever else I'm doing with them. And if I'm playing the classic game, or I'm choosing not to play with some of the expansion content, I merely have to sift through this section and find, if I'm not playing with divisions, I leave the divisions behind. If I'm not playing with planes and flames, then I just need to find the planes that do not have the PL on the back, which stands for planes and flames. That's how you differentiate things. All the expansion counters have the red initials or signifier on the back that tells you what expansion they're for. So, if I'm not playing with ships and flames, I'm just going to leave behind all the naval units that have the red S on the back or the red CO on the back, depending on what the counter actually is. So, again, if I have to switch between Classic and Deluxe, I have to do a little bit more sorting and logistical sorting as I'm setting up my game and going through the counters. But, again, that's based on my default, which is going to be the full Deluxe game. I just want to have everything ready to roll, which I've done. So, like I said, every major power is set up this way, so the model is consistent and should be relatively easy to follow. So out of the gate, again, 11 of these storage containers, I've got all of my World in Flames stuff set up and ready to go. And just for fun, I thought I'd share kind of how I keep my storage containers stored. Several months back, my wife and I were at an antique store, and I found this really cool storage trunk or chest. And so here's what I've got here. I've got this neat chest I got. It's got sort of a world map pattern on it, a world in flames perhaps. On here, very nifty, cool looking, and within it, it's actually pretty big and probably bigger than I even need right now for my world in flames counter boxes. But I can crack that open and Here we go. I've got my World in Flames counters in here. I could put the big orange-red World in Flames box in here if I wanted to. I just have this box here that has my super deluxe stuff. So I've got America in Flames in this box, Patton in Flames in this box. I'm just kind of keeping it in here. I kind of need to organize all that stuff too eventually. I whited out my address. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so I keep, I can keep the big box in here if I want. But either way, I've got a nice, cool little place to keep the counter storage boxes sort of nestled away, not taking up shelf space elsewhere in my game room. And I can sort of tuck this trunk underneath a table as needed, or whatever I want to do with it. So ends up working out pretty well. So okay, yeah, so just sort of in review, that's how I have managed to punch all my counters and organize them and get them set up in a relatively easy to use way for when I want to play World in Flames. And again, depending on a scenario I'm playing, or a deluxe or a classic game, depending on how I want to go, I think this is a good balance of flexibility and how to use the counters and where to grab them from and how to get them going, with managing to do all of this without totally breaking your bank, buying a million containers. Again, managed to get away with what is basically under $50 worth of plastic containers, and not a huge number of them, just 11, which doesn't take up too much volume space, all things considered. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're a new player looking to organize your WiF game and punch all those amazing counters, hopefully this is useful to you. If you want to go about it a different way, would be fun to hear your thoughts. If you want to share your thoughts in the comments below on how you organize your counters, we'll get this up in the Facebook group maybe, so folks can make use of it. If you like this video, hit subscribe. I try to do more videos for World in Flames here as we go, including instructional videos on how to play and explaining various game mechanics. We're just started getting into the naval mechanics of the game here, and we'll look to cover other topics. If you like this video, hit the like button. That will help me get some more visibility so folks can make use of my videos. If you like World in Flames, I also recommend you look into Fatal Alliances, which is published by Compass Games with partnership from ADG. And Fatal Alliances is the World War I World in Flames game. It's a lot of fun. I've done a huge number of videos for that, so if this is your first video of mine, check out my channel. I've got a playlist for that. I go really in-depth with Fatal Alliances stuff, as well as playing an entire turn by myself all the way through, so you can kind of see a demonstration of the game. Not sure I'm going to do that for World in Flames yet or not. We'll have to see. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. See ya.